Hello, Accelerated Math 7-8 students. We are now starting Module 10, Lesson 2. And what that one is called is Part of a Whole as a Percent. And we can find that on page 51 of my comp book. And so here is page 51 of my comp book, Part of a Whole as a Percent. Our goal for today we will practice working with part equals percent times whole formula. Okay? We did do a little of this when we were working on it in our 6th grade standards, and so this should be a review for you. The question is, how do you identify each part of the math sentence to use the formula? This honestly happens to be the hardest thing for kids to remember, and so hopefully we'll be able to come up with some kind of clues to help you with that. Things to know. The things that we need you to know so that you can identify the parts of a math sentence is part of a whole percent problems involve. That means that they have these things. The first thing that they have is a comparison of numbers. Okay? The second thing that they have is a comparison of a quantity that is a part of another quantity. So you could be comparing part of a whole. This one, you could just be comparing two numbers. Okay? They also, percent problems include visual models. Okay? And some of the visual models that help you solve the problems, and they really are helpful tools if you'll remember, the tape diagram. It can become very, very handy. The double number line can be very, very handy. And also just equations themselves if you can figure out how to set up this formula to help you in equation form. So we have a practice problem that I want to try with you. Okay, and we're going to incorporate the visual models. So let's try it. On a recent survey, 60% of those surveyed indicated that they preferred walking to running. If 540 people preferred walking, how many were surveyed? Then when you get done with that, you also have to figure out how many preferred running. Okay, so we know that 60% of those surveyed indicated that they preferred walking to running. So automatically, looking at tape diagram, double number line, or equations, you're going to pick the one that seems easiest for you. For me, automatically, I'm going to do a tape diagram, and I am going to split it into 5 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the reason that I do that is because I know that the whole tape has to represent 100%. Okay, I know that the whole tape has to represent 100%. It says in a recent survey, 60% of those surveyed indicated that they preferred walking to running. Okay, so 60%. So that must mean that this one is 20%. That must mean that this one is 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%. And only 60% preferred walking. So I know this amount from here to here is walking. Okay? Then the next thing that it says, if 450 people preferred walking, so no, not 450, sorry, 540. I do that all the time. Preferred walking. So 540. This amount of walking is 540. So our job is to figure out how many total were surveyed. So if we know that these 3 sections hold 540, think back to when we use tape diagrams all the time. We have 540 divided into 3 sections. So 3 goes into 5 once. That's 3. Bring down your 4, so that's 24. So that's 8. Bring down your 0, so that's 0. So we now know that each section has 180 people. Okay, so once we figured that out, we now can figure out our total surveyed. So we take 180 and we times it by 5, 0, 40, 9. So 900 people were surveyed. Do you see how the tape diagram helped us figure that out? Okay, then it also says the ending question is, how many people preferred running? Well, that's super easy because all you have to do is look on your tape, and these must be running because there were only 2 choices. They were either walking or they were running. And so since we know that we have two 180s, again, we're going to take it times 2, and we get 360 people prefer running. Okay, so now we have answered both questions. Yes. All right. And then we know there's 900 total people surveyed. We know 540 preferred walking. We know 360 preferred running. The other way that we could do this on the double number line, just to do a quick review of the double number line, is you always have 0 and 0. This would be percent because I like the percents on the top. This down here would be surveyed because that's what the question is asking. We know 100% is here. We know that this would be 20, 40, 60, 80, and those are all percents, right? Okay, it's very similar to the tape. Okay, and then we know 60 is 540. So now your job is to figure out how you got here, and then your job is also how you got here. Okay, and again, all you have to do is fill in those missing amounts to figure it out. Sometimes you go down to here, so 60 divided by 3 gives you 20, so 540 divided by 3 gives you 180, and then you take that times 5, and that's how you got 900, and then to get from 20 to 40, you times it by 2, and then you get 360. So you can see, could we find out 80%? Yes, very easily. Okay? Boys and girls, that's the double number line. Now, the equation that we could do for this one is it says that 60% of the people surveyed, so that means the total, right? Total parts, so 60% of the whole equals the part. Okay? So 60% of the whole, which we don't know. So we have 60% times something equals 540. Okay? So that's how you write it in your equation. 60% of the whole equals the part. 60% of what gives you 540. So again, turning it into a real equation with variables, so 60% times x equals 540. Then you have to take it out of the percent, so you have 60 over 100 times x equals 540 over 1. And now we have to get it by itself, so you have a BU chart. Your variable is x. You're multiplying it by 6/10. So what do? You multiply by the reciprocal, so we're going to multiply it by 10/6 or 160th. Let's leave it that way instead of simplifying it, and we'll be left with x. So we multiply this by 160th. That's 6,000 divided by 6,000, which gives me x. What you do to one side, you have to do the other. Multiply this. Okay, so then we get 1, 2, 3. So we have 54 followed by 3 zeros divided by 60. And so when you simplify that, you get x equals 900. Okay, so that's using the equation to help us. So 3 different methods to solve the same problem. Okay, so going back to our goal, today we will practice working with the part equals percent of whole formula. You are going to do that with lots of practice in class. How do you identify each part of the math sentence to use the formula? You really have to understand what it's asking you to help you figure out each part. So I hope this helps you. We're going to practice it together in class, and I will see you then. Bye.